The body lay in the middle of the street, under a single broken streetlight. Rain fell softly, washing blood into the cracks of the road. People stood frozen on the sidewalks. No one screamed. No one moved. It was as if the whole neighborhood had stopped breathing at the same time. A man knelt beside the body, his hands shaking, his mouth open but no words coming out. This wasn't just a murder. This was a message. The man on the ground was Calvin Moore, former criminal, community leader, a man who had once terrified his city and then spent years trying to heal it. Someone had shot him in the chest, right outside the community center he helped build, right under the sign that read, "Second chances start here." Police lights flashed red and blue, painting the walls like angry scars. A crowd gathered. Phones came out. Whispers spread fast. They killed him. He was helping kids. Why would anyone do this? A reporter spoke into a camera, her voice tight. This appears to be a targeted killing. Calvin Moore was known for leaving behind a life of crime and dedicating himself to reform and youth mentorship. The camera zoomed in on the sign above the center. Second chances. The rain kept falling. And somewhere far away, 3 people watched the news, their hearts sinking with the same terrible thought. If they could kill Calvin, what about us? That question hung in the air like smoke. And before anyone could answer it, the screen went black. Years earlier, long before the gunshot, before the rain, before Calvin Moore became a symbol, there was a boy named Marcus Reed. Marcus grew up in Detroit, in a neighborhood where the buildings leaned like tired men and hope felt like a rumor. His mother worked 2 jobs. His father left early and never came back. By the time Marcus was 10, he knew which streets to avoid and which ones meant trouble. By 12, he stopped avoiding them. The older boys noticed him because he was quiet. Quiet boys listened well. Quiet boys didn't ask questions. They gave him things at first. Shoes, food, respect. Then they gave him jobs. At 15, Marcus carried his first gun. At 17, he used it. He told himself he had no choice. That was a lie that kept him going. When Marcus was arrested at 19, he felt relief before fear. At least now, everything made sense. Prison was hard, but it was clear. Rules were rules. Violence was honest there. Hope was not. In his 3rd year inside, Marcus met Calvin Moore. Calvin was older, scarred, calm in a way that didn't feel fake. "You don't have to be what they expect," Calvin told him one night. Marcus laughed. "That's all I am." Calvin shook his head. "That's all you've been so far." Those words stayed with Marcus. Years later, when Marcus walked out of prison with a trash bag and a bus ticket, Calvin was waiting for him. That was the first time Marcus believed change might be real. Across the state, in a different kind of darkness, Angela Morris was fighting her own war. Angela didn't grow up poor. She grew up invisible. Her house was quiet, too quiet. Her parents argued behind closed doors. No one asked how she felt. At 16, someone older noticed her. He told her she was special. He lied. By the time Angela understood what was happening, she felt trapped, ashamed, broken. She learned how to escape with pills, then stronger pills, then anything that made her stop feeling. Addiction took years from her life. Arrests, detox centers, relapses. She lost friends, family, herself. One night, sitting alone in a jail cell, Angela looked at her reflection in a metal mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. "I don't want to die like this," she whispered. Recovery was slow and ugly. There were no miracles, just meetings, relapses, getting back up again. Years later, Angela stood sober in front of a room full of women, telling her story without shaking. She worked at a shelter now. She listened more than she spoke. Helping others helped her stay alive. And then there was Daniel Carter. Daniel didn't grow up on the streets. He grew up believing he was smarter than everyone else. He learned early how systems worked and how to cheat them. College, business, fast money. He told himself he wasn't hurting anyone, that everyone did it, until the day the door was kicked in. Federal charges, fraud, headlines. Daniel lost everything in 1 year. His job, his reputation, his freedom. Prison humbled him in ways nothing else ever had. The men around him didn't care how smart he was. They cared if he was honest. For the first time, Daniel had to face the damage he had caused. He read letters from victims. He didn't reply. He couldn't. After his release, Daniel chose a quiet life, teaching, speaking, warning others not to follow his path. But quiet never erased guilt. These three lives should never have crossed, but they did. At a small reentry conference in Chicago, Marcus, Angela, and Daniel sat in a circle with a dozen others who carried the same invisible weight, a past that refused to stay buried. Calvin Moore led the group. "Change doesn't make you safe," Calvin said that day. "It makes you visible." Everyone nodded. They thought he meant judgment. They didn't yet understand he meant danger. Years passed. Marcus opened a community center for at-risk kids. He stayed late. He broke up fights. He showed up. Angela became a counselor. She answered late-night calls. She held hands through withdrawals. Daniel spoke at colleges. He taught accountability, not excuses. They were not famous. They were just doing the work. And then Calvin was killed. The news hit like a punch. Marcus watched the report in his empty office, the kid's drawings shaking on the walls as his hands trembled. Angela dropped a coffee mug when she saw Calvin's face on the screen. Daniel turned off the TV and sat in silence for an hour. This wasn't random. They all knew it. Calvin had crossed a line someone didn't want crossed. The message was simple. You don't get to leave. That night, Marcus found a note on his windshield. 3 words. You forgot us. His heart pounded. He looked around the empty street. No one was there, but he felt watched. And somewhere, far away, fear began to move. Prison is loud in the daytime and loud in a different way at night. During the day, there are voices, metal doors, shouting, orders, footsteps. At night, there is silence that feels heavier than noise. Silence gives people time to remember who they were and what they did. Marcus Reed learned that silence could be dangerous. After his first year of good behavior, Marcus was moved to a shared cell. His new cellmate was a young man named Tyler Brooks, barely 19 years old. Tyler had nervous hands and eyes that never stayed still. "What are you in for?" Tyler asked the first night. Marcus hesitated. "Robbery," he said. "You?" Tyler swallowed. "Same." Marcus saw himself in Tyler. The anger, the fear hiding under jokes, the belief that being tough was the only way to survive. That scared him. Tyler talked a lot. About the streets. About proving himself. About how he would run things when he got out. Marcus listened. One night, Tyler said something that made Marcus sit up. "When I get out, I'll finish what I started." Marcus turned to him. "What do you mean?" Tyler smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. People don't forget disrespect. Marcus didn't sleep that night. The next day, Marcus went to Henry Wallace in the library. "He sounds like me," Marcus said quietly. "Before." Henry nodded. "Then you know what comes next." "What do I do?" Marcus asked. "You tell the truth," Henry said, "even if it makes you look weak." That night, Marcus spoke to Tyler again. "You don't have to go back," Marcus said. "I did. It cost me everything." Tyler laughed. "You sound scared." "I am," Marcus replied. "For you." Tyler didn't answer. 2 weeks later, Tyler attacked another inmate and was sent to solitary confinement. Marcus sat on his bunk, staring at the empty space where Tyler's bed had been. He realized something painful. You can offer a hand, but you can't force someone to take it. That lesson stayed with him. Angela Morris faced a different kind of silence. After her release, she moved into a small apartment provided by a reentry program. The walls were white and empty. The quiet made her uneasy. In prison, there was always noise. People. Structure. Out here, there was freedom. Freedom scared her. On her first night alone, Angela sat on the floor and cried. Not because she wanted drugs. Not because she missed her old life. Because she didn't know who she was without pain. She started working at a women's shelter as part of her program. Most days, she cleaned. Sometimes, she listened. One afternoon, a young woman named Cara came in shaking. She had bruises on her arms and a baby on her hip. "I don't belong here," Cara said. "I messed up." Angela felt her chest tighten. "You belong," Angela said softly. Cara looked at her. "How do you know?" Angela hesitated. Then she told the truth. Because I was worse, she said. Kara stared. You don't look like it. Angela smiled sadly. That's the point. Helping others helped Angela stay steady. But the past didn't disappear. One evening, Angela ran into her old dealer outside a grocery store. Angie, he said, grinning, didn't expect to see you. Her heart raced. Her body remembered before her mind could. You look good, he said. Clean, but I got something better if you want. Angela took a step back. No, she said. He laughed. You'll be back. Angela walked away shaking. That night, she called Rebecca, her old prison counselor. I almost broke, Angela admitted. Rebecca's voice was calm. But you didn't. That doesn't mean I won't, Angela said. It means you're honest, Rebecca replied. That's how change survives. Angela hung up and cried again. But this time, she didn't feel alone. Daniel Carter struggled with something else. Shame. When Daniel got out of prison, his name followed him everywhere. Online articles, court records, comments, crook, thief, snake. Daniel tried to teach financial classes, but many people didn't trust him. You're the last person I want advice from. One man said. Daniel didn't argue. He nodded. You're right, he replied. That's why I'm careful now. Slowly, some people listened. Daniel never defended himself. He explained mistakes. He showed how easy it was to fall into traps. One night after class, a teenage boy stayed behind. My mom's drowning in debt, the boy said. I don't want to end up like her. Daniel felt tears burn his eyes. I know how to cheat systems, Daniel said. Now I teach how to escape them. The boy nodded. For the first time, Daniel felt useful. Not all stories of change move forward in straight lines. Marcus faced his test when he was offered early release. You'll be out in 6 months, the officer said. Marcus nodded. His hand shook. Freedom was close. Then the officer added, There's one condition. You testify against former associates. Marcus felt sick. Snitching could put him in danger. But staying silent meant protecting harm. That night, Marcus didn't sleep. He thought about Tyler. About Jacob-like boys he saw every day. He agreed. Word spread fast. Marcus was attacked in the yard 2 days later. He hit the ground hard. Someone kicked his ribs. Someone punched his face. Guards pulled him out just in time. In the infirmary, Marcus stared at the ceiling, blood on his lips. Henry visited him later. Was it worth it? Henry asked. Marcus winced as he smiled. Yeah. Angela faced her test when Kara returned to the shelter bruise again. I went back, Kara whispered. Angela hugged her. You came back too, Angela said. That night, Angela testified in court against a man who once controlled her. Her voice shook, but she spoke. Afterward, she sat in her car and screamed until her throat hurt. She didn't regret it. Daniel faced his test when an old business contact called him. One last deal, the man said. Easy money. Daniel stared at his phone for a long time. Then he deleted the number. Change is not a moment. The news spread fast. It's a fight that repeats every day. The name of the dead man was everywhere. Some days you barely survived. Age 41. Marcus was former gang member. The air felt cold and new. Shot outside his mother a community center in Chicago. Angela was accepted into a counseling program. Calvin had a big smile and tired eyes. Daniel Marcus had met him once at a community college. They had shaken hands and laughed about how strange it felt to stand on stage instead of in a lineup. And that was okay. He made it out because redemption is not about applause. And they still got him. It's about responsibility. Fear is quiet but just when it seemed their new lives sits in the stomach and wait. Something happened. Marcus felt it all day. A news alert flashed. He was back in Detroit now. A former gang member non-profit out mental office. Suspected were covered in drawing from kids. Marcus felt his quotes about choices. Angela saw the same alert that on morning. Her break. None of Daniel read it online. His phone rang again and again. They all understood old the numbers. The past does not let go easily. He didn't answer. And the next chapter would test whether change. A black car slowed outside his office and then drove on. Marcus closed the blinds. That night, he couldn't sleep. Every sound outside made him tense. Every shadow looked wrong. For the first time since prison, Marcus thought about running. Leaving the city, changing his name, disappearing. He hated himself for thinking it. The next day, Marcus met with a group of teenage boys at the center. They were loud, joking, pushing each other. One boy, Deshaun, stayed quiet in the corner. Marcus noticed. After the session, Marcus sat beside him. "You okay?" Deshaun shrugged. "They killed Calvin." Marcus nodded. "Yeah." Deshaun's jaw tightened. "So what's the point? You change, and they still come for you." Marcus didn't answer right away. Then he said the hardest thing. "Because if we don't change, they win anyway." Deshaun looked at him. "You scared?" Marcus met his eyes. "Every day." That surprised the boy. "But I stay," Marcus continued, "because someone stayed for me." Deshaun nodded slowly. That night, Marcus made a decision. He would not hide. Angela Morris faced her fear in a different way. She was driving home from class when she noticed a car behind her. It followed her for 3 turns. Her hands began to shake. She pulled into a gas station and jumped out, heart racing. The car slowed, then drove past. Angela stood there breathing hard. Old memories flooded back. Being watched. Being owned. She sat in her car and cried. Later that night, Angela spoke to her supervisor at the counseling center. "I'm scared I'm not strong enough," Angela admitted. "What if I break again?" Her supervisor, Dr. Elaine Porter, listened carefully. "Strength isn't never falling," she said. "It's building systems so you're not alone when you do." They made a plan. More check-ins, less isolation, more support. Angela felt relief and shame at the same time. She was learning that asking for help was not failure. Daniel Carter's fear wore suit. The college where he taught canceled his next talk. "We're concerned about optics," the dean said politely. Daniel understood what that meant. Your past is still louder than your present. That night, Daniel sat alone in his apartment, scrolling through comments under an article about Calvin's death. Once a criminal, always a criminal. Playing hero doesn't erase blood. They get what they deserve. Daniel closed his laptop. For the first time, he wondered if change mattered at all if no one believed in it. Then his phone buzzed. A message from a former student. "Your class helped my mom avoid foreclosure. Thank you." Daniel stared at the screen for a long time. He replied, "That means more than you know." The threat started 2 days later. Marcus found a note taped to his office door. "You forgot who you are." Angela received a voicemail with no words, just breathing. Daniel got an email with 1 sentence. "People like you don't get second acts." None of them went to the police. Not because they didn't trust the law, but because they understood the message. This wasn't about crime. It was about fear, and fear wanted silence. Marcus called Angela that night. They had stayed in touch through Raintree circles. "I think they are trying to scare us back into our old lives," Marcus said. Angela swallowed. "It's working." "Then we talk," Marcus said. "Together." They looped Daniel into the call. 4 hours, they talked about prison nights, about guilt, about wanting to disappear. None of them pretended to be heroes. They were survivors choosing something harder than crime. They decided to speak publicly, not just about success, but about fear. The event was small, a church basement, folding chairs. Marcus spoke first. "Change doesn't erase danger," he said. "It invites it, because fear hates proof." Angela followed. "I didn't stop being scared when I got clean," she said. "I stopped being alone." Daniel ended. "I can't undo what I did," he said, "but I can stop pretending it didn't matter." The room was quiet. Then one person clapped. Then another. After the event, a man waited near the door. He wore a hood. His hands were in his pockets. Marcus felt his body tense. The man stepped forward. "My brother was in a gang," the man said. "He died last year." "I'm sorry," Marcus said. The man nodded. "I hated people like you. Thought you were fake." He paused. "I was wrong." Then he walked away. That night, Marcus slept better. But the danger wasn't gone. A week later, Marcus was driving home when a motorcycle pulled up beside him at a red light. The rider lifted his visor. Marcus recognized him. An old associate. The light stayed red. "You should have stayed quiet," the man said. The light turned green. The motorcycle sped away. Marcus sat frozen, heart pounding. At home, He locked the door and slid to the floor. Fear wrapped around him like a blanket. Then his phone buzzed. A message from Deshawn. Got into a fight today. Didn't pull a knife. Thought of what you said. Marcus smiled through tears. Angela faced a breaking point when Kara relapsed. Kara showed up at the shelter shaking and ashamed. I ruined everything, she cried. Angela held her. No, she said. You came back. But later that night, Angela sat alone, staring at the ceiling. The urge crept in. Just one escape. She picked up a phone and scrolled to an old number. Her thumb hovered. Then she opened her recovery app instead and messaged her support group. Struggling, she typed. Replies came fast. Stay. Breathe. You're not alone. Angela cried until the urge passed. Daniel faced his test when a former victim contacted him. The message was short. I lost my savings because of you. Why should I believe you changed? Daniel stayed at the screen. He could ignore it. Instead, he replied, You shouldn't believe me easily. You're right to be angry. They exchanged messages for weeks. Daniel listened more than he spoke. One day, the man wrote back, I'm not ready to forgive you, but I see you trying. Daniel accepted that. Change does not come with protection. It comes with exposure, and exposure invites pain. One evening, Marcus found his car window smashed. Nothing was stolen, just a message. You don't belong. Marcus stood in the cold, breathing hard. Then he picked up his phone and called the police. Not to hide, but to document, to stand. The next morning, all three received the same invitation. A national conference on rehabilitation and reform. They wanted Marcus, Angela, and Daniel on the same stage. Angela's hand shook reading the email. Marcus felt pride and fear twist together. Daniel closed his eyes. This would make them visible. Very visible. They met on a video call that night. If we do this, Angela said, we can't pretend we're okay. Marcus nodded. We tell the truth. Daniel added, even if it costs us. They agreed. The conference was in 2 weeks. And somewhere, someone was watching, waiting, because fear does not like the light. And it ended with all three knowing one thing. The closer they came to changing lives, the more dangerous the past would become. The 2 weeks before the conference moved too fast and too slow at the same time. Every day felt heavy, like the air itself was watching. Marcus started changing his routine. Different routes home. Different times. He parked under streetlights and checked his mirrors twice. Still, he showed up every morning. He opened the center. He smiled at the kids, even when his chest felt tight. At night, the memories came back. The cell, the noise, the feeling of being trapped. He would sit on his couch with the lights on, reminding himself that the door was not locked, that he could leave if he wanted to, that he had chosen this life. Sometimes that reminder worked. Sometimes it didn't. Angela tried to drown herself in work. Extra shifts, extra counseling sessions, extra meetings. She told herself she was helping others, but really, she was running from quiet. Quiet was dangerous. Quiet let her think. One night, she stood in her kitchen holding a mug of tea that had gone cold. Her hands were shaking again. She hadn't slept more than 3 hours in days. Her phone buzzed. A message from her sister. Proud of you. Saw your name online. Angela closed her eyes. Her sister hadn't spoken to her in years after everything that happened. The addiction, the lies, the arrests. This was the first message in a long time. Angela typed back slowly. I'm scared. The reply came a minute later. That means you care. Don't stop. Angela sat on the floor and cried. Not from pain this time, but from relief. Daniel prepared in silence. He wrote his speech again and again, deleting whole pages. He didn't want applause. He wanted honesty. He wanted to explain how easy it was to become someone terrible without noticing. At night, he read letters from prison he had kept all these years. Letters he never sent. Apologies written but never delivered. One letter ended with a line he had forgotten. If I ever get out, I will spend the rest of my life trying to balance the scale. Daniel wondered if that was even possible. 3 days before the conference, the first radar warning came. Marcus was closing the center when he heard footsteps behind him. Fast, heavy, He turned just as someone slammed him into the brick wall. The air left his lungs. A hand pressed against his throat. "Still playing, hero?" a voice whispered. Marcus struggled, his vision blurring. Then the pressure eased. The man leaned close. "This is your last stage." And then he was gone. Marcus slid to the ground, gasping. People rushed over. Someone called 911. At the hospital, the doctor said he was lucky. Bruised ribs. No broken bones. The officer asked if he knew who did it. Marcus hesitated. He could lie. Instead, he said, "Yes." That night, he called Angela and Daniel. "I don't want you finding out online," Marcus said quietly. "They put hands on me." Angela felt sick. "Are you okay?" "I'm alive," Marcus said, "and I'm still going." There was a long silence. Then Daniel spoke. "Then so am I." Angela swallowed her fear. "Me too." None of them slept much after that. The conference city felt unreal. Tall buildings, bright lights, security everywhere. For the first time in years, Marcus felt both protected and exposed. Angela noticed plainclothes officers near the doors. It helped. A little. Daniel clutched his badge like it was armor. Backstage, they stood together in silence. Marcus finally spoke. "If anyone wants to back out." "No," Angela said firmly. Daniel nodded. "We finished what we started." When Marcus walked onto the stage, the lights blinded him for a second. The room was huge. Hundreds of people. Cameras. Phones. He took a breath. "I used to believe violence was the only language people understood," he began. "Then I learned that fear is louder." The room grew quiet. Angela spoke next. "I was treated like an object," she said. "Then I became one to myself. Recovery didn't make me clean. It made me human again." Daniel followed. "I stole from people who trusted me," he said. "I don't ask forgiveness. I ask for the chance to stop causing harm." There was no applause at first. Then one clap. Then many. After the panel, strangers came up to them. Some crying. Some angry. Some thankful. One man pointed at Daniel and said, "My dad lost everything to someone like you." Daniel nodded. "I know." The man looked at him for a long moment. Then he shook Daniel's hand and walked away. Angela felt something loosen in her chest. For a moment, it felt worth it. The moment didn't last. That night, Angela returned to her hotel room and found the door slightly open. Her heart raced. She froze. Then she saw it. Nothing was missing, but on the mirror, written in red lipstick, were 3 words. "You can't escape." Angela's knees buckled. She backed out slowly and called security. They swept the room. No one was found. Marcus arrived minutes later, fury burning in his eyes. Daniel stood silent, jaw tight. Angela sat on the bed, shaking. "They know where we are," she whispered. Marcus nodded. "And they want us scared." Daniel looked at both of them. "It's working." For the first time, the thought passed through all of them at once. What if Calvin's fate wasn't an exception? What if this always ended the same way? The next morning, the conference continued like nothing had happened. Angela almost canceled the session. Instead, she stood in front of the mirror and said out loud, "I am not owned by fear." Her voice shook, but she said it anyway. Marcus gave another talk, his bruises hidden under jacket. Daniel joined a round table on accountability. They smiled. They answered questions. Inside, they were breaking. At lunch, Marcus received a message from Deshawn. "They arrested my cousin. Guns. I wanted to run. Stayed clean." Marcus stayed at the screen. This was why he stayed. This was a balance. The final event of the conference was a large public forum. Open questions. Live stream. Security was tight. Too tight to feel normal. Angela sat beside Marcus on the stage. Daniel sat on her other side. A woman stood up and asked, "Aren't you afraid the people you hurt will never forgive you?" Daniel answered first. "Yes." Angela added, "Forgiveness isn't owed. Change is." Marcus nodded. "And change takes witnesses." Another person stood. "What if your past catches up to you?" Marcus hesitated. Then he said, "Then I face it standing." The room went silent. Then someone screamed. A loud bang echoed through the hall. People ducked. Chairs fell. Security rushed forward. Angela felt Marcus grab her arm. Daniel froze, eyes wide. It wasn't a gunshot. It was a smoke canister. Smoke filled the room. People ran. Through the chaos, Marcus saw a man in a hoodie near the exit. The same man from the motorcycle. Their eyes met. The man smiled. By the time the smoke cleared, he was gone. No one was hurt. But the message was clear. They could reach them anywhere. The conference ended early. Police took statements. News headlines exploded. Former criminals targeted after reform conference. Back in their hotel room, the three sat in silence. Angela finally spoke. I don't know how much more I can take. Marcus nodded slowly. I know. Daniel rubbed his face. This isn't just about us anymore. They all understood. The threats were growing, and fear was getting louder. That night, Marcus received a call from an unknown number. He answered. You like stages, a voice said. Let's see how you handle a funeral. The line went dead. Marcus stared at the phone. He looked at Angela and Daniel. They are escalating, he said. Outside, sirens wailed. Inside, the weight of everything they had done pressed down on them. This ended with one terrifying truth settling in their minds. The story was no longer about redemption alone. It was about survival. After the phone call, nothing felt solid anymore. Marcus sat on the edge of the hotel bed long after Angela and Daniel had gone to their rooms. The city lights outside the window looked sharp, like broken glass. His phone lay in his hand, heavy as a brick. You like stages. Let's see how you handle a funeral. He replayed the words again and again. In prison, threats were common. Loud, angry. Most of them were empty. This one was calm. That scared him most. Marcus didn't sleep. When morning came, his body felt old and weak. He checked the news. No reports of violence overnight. No names he recognized. Still, he felt like something bad was moving toward them. Slow and quiet. Angela felt it too. She woke up shaking, her heart racing for no reason she could name. She sat on the hotel bathroom floor with her back against the tub, breathing the way she had been taught. In. Hold. Out. Her phone buzzed. A message from Cara. Had a bad night. Wanted to disappear. Remembered your voice. I'm still here. Angela pressed her forehead to the wall. She typed back, I'm glad you stayed. After sending it, Angela whispered the same words to herself. Daniel spent the morning on the phone with the conference organizers and police. Reports, statements, assurances. Yes, we'll cooperate. No, we don't want publicity. Yes, we understand the risk. When he finally hung up, his hands were shaking. He had faced judges without fear, angry victims, prison guards. This felt different. This felt like being hunted. They flew home separately, not because they wanted to, because security told them it was safer. Marcus hated that. Back in Detroit, he stood in his empty apartment, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. The place felt wrong, too quiet. He checked the locks twice, then 3 times. His phone rang. It was his parole officer. I heard about the conference, she said. You okay? I think so, Marcus replied. There was a pause. Marcus, if you need to lay low for a bit. I won't, he said gently. If I do, they win. She sighed. Just be careful. Marcus promised he would. He wasn't sure that promise meant anything. Angela returned to her small apartment near the shelter. The familiar smells, cleaning soap, old carpet, helped ground her. For the first time in days, she cooked a real meal. She ate slowly, telling herself she was safe. Then she noticed the window. It was unlocked. She froze. She always locked it. Carefully, she walked closer. On the sill was a folded piece of paper. Her hands trembled as she opened it. We know where you heal. Angela sank into a chair, her chest tight. The shelter, her safe place. Her people, they were being pulled into this. Angela grabbed her phone and called Marcus. They left a note, she whispered. They mentioned the shelter. Marcus closed his eyes. Okay, listen to me. You call the police. I'm calling Daniel. I don't want to scare anyone, Angela said. You won't, Marcus replied. We'll protect them by being honest. Angela nodded, even though he couldn't see her. This was the hardest lesson of recovery. You can't protect people by hiding the truth. Daniel went home to an empty apartment and a full inbox. Hate mail, threats, and one message that stood out. I knew Calvin. He tried to change too. No threat, just a fact. Daniel stared at the words. Then another message came in. You think speaking makes you brave. It just makes you visible. Daniel shut his laptop. He walked to the window and looked down at the street. For the first time, he wondered if prison had been easier. At least there, the danger was clear. The police took the threats seriously. Extra patrols, cameras, advice. But they were honest. We can't be everywhere, one officer told Marcus. Marcus nodded. I know. The kids at the center noticed the changes. More adults, locked doors, whispers. Deshaun pulled Marcus aside. You in trouble? The boy asked. Marcus considered lying. Then he didn't. Yeah, he said. A little. Deshaun frowned. Because of us. No, Marcus said firmly. Because of who I used to be. Deshaun was quiet. Then he said, You still coming tomorrow? Marcus smiled. Always. Angela gathered the shelter staff that evening. She told them everything. The notes, the conference, the risks. Some faces went pale. One woman asked, Should we close? Angela shook her head. That's what fear wants. But what if someone started? Angela's voice was steady. Then we face it together. The room fell silent. Then Cara spoke up. I wouldn't be alive without this place, she said softly. I'm not leaving. One by one, others nodded. Angela felt pride and terror mix in her chest. Daniel decided to do something he had avoided for years. He reached out to one of the people he had hurt most, a woman named Linda Harris. She had lost her savings because of his fraud. He had written her apologies he never sent. Now, he sent one. I don't expect forgiveness, he wrote. But I want you to know I'm trying to live differently, and I'm scared. He hesitated before hitting send. Then he did. Her reply came hours later. I still live with what you did, but I don't want anyone dead. Be careful. Daniel read it again and again. That was not forgiveness, but it was humanity. The week passed with no new threats. That scared them more than the threats themselves. Marcus felt like he was waiting for a storm. Then it came. It started with a fire alarm. Angela was leading a group session at the shelter when the alarm blared. People screamed. Smoke filled the hallway. Angela's heart pounded. Everyone out, she shouted. She helped guide women toward the exit, coughing, eyes burning. Outside, they gathered in the cold night air. Fire trucks arrived fast. The fire was small. A trash can near the back door. Arson. On the ground near the door, spray painted in black, were words that made Angela's stomach drop. This is a warning. No one was hurt, but the message was louder than flames. Marcus heard about the fire on the news. He was already grabbing his keys when his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. You're slow, the voice said. That was just practice. Marcus's hands clenched. If you touch them again, he began. The voice laughed. You don't get to make rules. The line went dead. Marcus punched the wall. Then he breathed. Then he called Daniel. They're escalating, Marcus said. They are testing us. Daniel's voice was calm but tight. Then the next step will be worse. Daniel was right. 2 days later, a body was found. Not Marcus. Not Angela. Not Daniel. A man named Ethan Brooks. Former inmate. Community volunteer. Found beaten behind a closed-down warehouse. Still alive. Barely. Marcus recognized the name immediately. Ethan had spoken at the same conference. He rushed to the hospital. Ethan lay unconscious, face swollen, breathing shallow. A police officer stopped Marcus outside the room. You know him. Yes, Marcus said hoarsely. The officer lowered his voice. This wasn't random. Marcus nodded. I know. Angela arrived later, eyes red. Daniel came last, his face pale. They stood together in the hallway, silent. Finally, Angela whispered, this is becoming a list. Daniel swallowed. And we're on it. That night, Marcus made a choice. He went live. On social media. No script. No filter. He told the story. The threats. The notes. The fire. Ethan, I won't be silent, Marcus said into the camera. If something happens to us, I want the world to know why. The video spread fast. Support poured in. So did hate. Angela watched the video from her apartment, heart racing. Daniel watched it twice. Then he called Marcus. You just made us impossible to ignore, Daniel said. Marcus exhaled. Good. The next morning, police called. They had a lead, a name, an old gang connection linked to multiple threats. But before they could act, something else happened. Angela was driving to the shelter when her phone rang. Marcus's name flashed on the screen. She answered, but it wasn't Marcus. It was his voice. Recorded. You like stages, it said. Let's see how you handle a funeral. Then a new voice. If you want him alive, come alone. Angela screamed his name. The line went dead. Her car swerved to the side of the road. She was shaking so badly she could barely breathe. Daniel's phone buzzed at the same time. A photo. Marcus. Blindfolded. Blood on his lip. And a message. Final act. This ended there, with fear no longer whispering, but screaming. The threats. The notes. The fire. Ethan, I won't be silent, Marcus said into the camera. If something happens to us, I want the world to know why. The video spread fast. Support poured in. So did hate. Angela watched the video from her apartment, heart racing. Daniel watched it twice. Then he called Marcus. You just made us impossible to ignore, Daniel said. Marcus exhaled. Good. The next morning, police called. They had a lead, a name, an old gang connection linked to multiple threats. But before they could act, something else happened. Angela was driving to the shelter when her phone rang. Marcus's name flashed on the screen. She answered, but it wasn't Marcus. It was his voice. Recorded. You like stages, it said. Let's see how you handle a funeral. Then a new voice. If you want him alive, come alone. Angela screamed his name. The line went dead. Her car swerved to the side of the road. She was shaking so badly she could barely breathe. Daniel's phone buzzed at the same time. A photo. Marcus. Blindfolded. Blood on his lip. And a message. Final act. This ended there, with fear no longer whispering, but screaming. Angela could not think. The photo of Marcus burned into her mind. The blindfold. The blood. The message. Final act. Her hands were shaking so badly she had to pull the car over. She pressed her forehead to the steering wheel and tried to breathe, but air felt thin. Marcus had been the strong one, the steady one. Now he was gone. Daniel answered her call on the first ring. They took him, Angela said. Her voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. They want me to come alone. No, Daniel said immediately. You're not going. They'll kill him, Angela whispered. Daniel swallowed hard. They might anyway. This is what they do. They isolate. Angela's chest hurt. We can't just do nothing. Daniel closed his eyes. He thought of prison yards, of traps that look like choices. Listen to me, he said slowly. We don't do what they want. We do what keeps him alive. Angela nodded, even though tears blurred her vision. Then tell me what to do. Marcus woke up to pain. His head throbbed. His mouth tasted like metal. He tried to move his arms, but they were tied. A blindfold covered his eyes. He breathed slowly, the way he had learned to do in a cell when panic tried to take over. He was alive. That mattered. A door creaked open. Footsteps. You finally awake, a voice said. Calm, almost bored. Marcus recognized it. The man from the motorcycle. You made a lot of noise, the man continued. You embarrass people. Marcus stayed quiet. You think change makes you special, the man asked. It makes you dangerous. Marcus swallowed. Because I show others they don't need you. The man laughed. Because you make fear weak. A fist hit Marcus's ribs. Pain exploded. You don't get speeches, the man said. You get an ending. Marcus coughed, gasping for air. In his mind, he pictured Deshawn's face. The kids, the center. If this was the end, he wanted it to mean something. Daniel moved fast. He called the police. He showed them everything. The messages, the photo, the call logs. This time, there was no debate. This was kidnapping. Angela sat in the station, arms wrapped around herself, rocking slightly. They told me to come alone, she said again. If I don't... An officer interrupted gently. We're not letting you walk into that. Angela looked up. Then how do we save him? The room was quiet. Then another officer spoke. We let them think you're coming. Angela froze. What? The officer continued. Controlled. Tracked. We follow. We intervene. Angela's heart raced. And if they see you... That's the risk, the officer said. But it's better than losing him. Angela thought of all the times she had run toward danger instead of away from it. Addiction. Abuse. Fear. This time was different. This time, she was choosing life. She nodded. Okay. Marcus lost track of time. Minutes felt like hours. At some point, the blindfold was removed. He was in an empty warehouse. Concrete floor. Exposed beams. One hanging light swinging slightly. The man stood across from him, arms crossed. You're going to kneel, the man said. Marcus stayed still. The man stepped closer. You don't get to be brave now. Marcus looked at him. You're afraid. The man's jaw tightened. Marcus continued, voice rough but steady. You're afraid that if people like me live, your power dies. The man hit him again. Blood filled Marcus's mouth. Shut up, the man snapped. Marcus spat blood on the floor. You already lost, Marcus said. That's why you're here with me instead of running things. The man stared at him, breathing hard. For a moment, Marcus thought he might be killed right there. Instead, the man stepped back. You talk too much, he muttered. He walked away. Marcus sagged against the chair, shaking. But inside, something burned. Hope. Angela followed the instructions carefully. She drove where they told her, an old industrial area, empty streets. Her phone buzzed with directions. Daniel watched a live police feed from a nearby van, his heart pounding so hard it hurt. He felt useless. He hated that feeling. Angela parked where they said. Her phone rang. You alone? The voice asked. Yes, Angela said, forcing her voice to stay calm. Good, the voice replied. Get out of the car. Angela stepped out. The night air was cold. Walk forward. She did. In the distance, she saw the warehouse. Her legs felt weak, but she kept going. Every step felt like walking back into her worst nightmares. But this time, she wasn't running. Inside the warehouse, the man checked his phone. She's here, he said. Marcus's heart jumped. Angela, let him go. Angela's voice echoed through the space as she stepped inside. Marcus looked up. For a second, he forgot the pain. Angela, he whispered. The man smiled. You're loyal. I like that. Angela walked closer, hands visible. You want me, she said. Not him. The man laughed. I want an example. Police lights flashed outside. Sirens wailed. The man cursed. What did you do? He shouted. Angela didn't answer. She ran to Marcus. At the same moment, the man pulled a gun. Everything happened at once. Shouting. Footsteps. A loud bang. Marcus felt Angela slam into him. Then wait. Then silence. Daniel watched the feed, his breath stuck in his chest. He saw officers rush in. He saw the man tackled. He saw Angela on the ground. Marcus screaming her name. No, Daniel whispered. Minutes felt like years. Finally, his phone rang. It's done, the officer said. They are both alive. Daniel collapsed into the seat, sobbing. Angela woke up in a hospital bed. Her shoulder burned. A bullet had grazed her. She was alive. Marcus sat beside her, bruised and battered, tears running down his face. You're an idiot, Angela whispered weakly. Marcus laughed through tears. So are you. Daniel arrived an hour later. He stood in the doorway, unable to speak. All three of them were alive. That felt unreal. The arrest didn't stop there. Marcus's video had done something powerful. It brought witnesses. People spoke up. Names were given. The network behind the threat began to fall apart. Fear hates light. Ethan survived. Calvin's case was reopened with new information. It wasn't justice for everything, but it was something. Recovery took time. Marcus walked with a limp for months, but he reopened the center. The first day back, Deshaun hugged him hard. "Told you you weren't allowed to die," the boy said. Marcus smiled. "Guess I listened." Angela took time off to heal. She attended her meetings. She rested. She let others help her. That was new. Daniel returned to teaching. This time, he taught about harm, about repair, about the long road after guilt. He told his students, change is not loud. It's daily. They spoke again together months later. A smaller room, fewer cameras, but more honesty. Marcus said, redemption is not safety. Angela said, healing is not forgetting. Daniel said, accountability is love with teeth. People listened. Some cried. Some left angry. That was okay. Not everyone is ready to hear the truth. The story didn't end with applause. It ended with work. Daily choices. Staying. Helping. Standing up even when your legs shake. Fear never fully left them, but it stopped leading. And that changed everything. If this story moved you, if it made you think about second chances, fear, or the power of choosing good even when it's hard, share it, talk about it, and stay with us for the next story.